Hello, everyone, and welcome. I can just feel that mix of excitement and, yeah, a few nerves in the air. You've hit the books for years, and now you're about to step into a real elementary school classroom for the first time. So, the huge question is, how do we take all that amazing theory you've learned and make it actually work with kids? Let's figure that out together.
And I get it. It's a question I hear all the time. You've got all these names and ideas swimming around in your head. Krashen, Swain, CLT, CILL. It can feel like you're standing at a crossroads with signs pointing in a million different directions, right? Well, don't you worry. Today, we're going to cut through all that noise and focus on 6 key proposals that will really, truly help you in your classroom.
All right, so let's start with a little trip down memory lane. I'm willing to bet this first one is going to sound super familiar, maybe from your own school days. It's the whole idea of getting it right from the very beginning. So the thinking here is that learning a language is all about forming good habits. And errors? Well, in this view, errors are just bad habits, and you have to stamp them out immediately before they take root. Does that ring a bell? This is the core philosophy behind methods like grammar translation or the audiolingual method, where the big goal is perfect, error-free repetition. So what does this actually look like with little kids? Well, you can picture it. A classroom of students chanting, I go, you go, he goes, or repeating a dialogue after the teacher, word for perfect word. The focus is 100% on accuracy. But, and here's the million-dollar question, what happens when the drills stop? And this is where the research gets really fascinating. A landmark study by Patsy Lightbone put this exact idea to the test. And what she found was, well, it was a game changer. Sure, students could get the answers right during the drills, but the second they had to speak freely on their own, they went right back to making the same old mistakes. Those perfect habits just didn't transfer to real communication. And here's the real danger. When we put all the focus on perfection, we risk creating a classroom filled with fear. Students can get so worried about making a mistake that they just stop talking. And that is the absolute last thing we want. We're here to build confident communicators, not silent perfectionists. So, if the accuracy first approach had some serious problems, what was the alternative? Well, as often happens, the pendulum swung completely the other way. A whole new movement popped up with a simple, really powerful idea. Forget perfection, just communicate. All of a sudden, meaning was king. Now, this whole meaning-first movement isn't just one single method. It's more like a family of really exciting approaches. We're going to look at 3 of the biggest ones. The incredible power of just listening and reading, the magic that happens when students talk to each other, and the amazing 2-for-1 deal where you learn a subject in English. Let's dive in. First up, comprehensible input. Now, that's a fancy term for a really simple and beautiful idea from Stephen Krashen. Just imagine reading a big, colorful picture book to your class. The kids aren't stressing about verb tenses. They're totally lost in the story. And as they listen, they're just effortlessly soaking up new words and how sentences work. The research on this is crystal clear. This kind of low-pressure listening is a fantastic way to build a strong foundation for speaking later on. Okay, next, let's talk. We all love putting students in pairs, right? But have you ever noticed how some pairs just seem to click and learn a ton, while others, not so much? Well, research by Naomi Stewart shows us exactly why. She found that when 2 students are truly collaborating, building on each other's ideas, helping each other out, the learning is just incredible. But if one student takes over and the other one just sits there passively, the learning pretty much grinds to a halt. The big takeaway for us as teachers, it's not enough to just say work in pairs. We have to design tasks where they need each other to succeed. And finally, we have that get 2-for-1 deal. This is often called CILL, which stands for Content and Language Integrated Learning. It's really just a way of saying you teach a subject, like science or art, using English. And as you can see from the research here, it's an absolute powerhouse for building vocabulary and listening skills. But, and this is important, take a look at that grammar bar. Because everyone's so focused on the content of the science lesson, sometimes grammar accuracy can take a bit of a backseat. So, let's be super clear. Meaning-focused activities are absolutely essential. They get your students talking, they build their confidence, and they really help them develop fluency and a feel for the language. But, and it's a big but, if we only ever focus on meaning, our students can hit a plateau. They might be great at getting their message across, but their mistakes can become permanent or fossilized. So what do we do? How do we get the best of both worlds? And that very question brings us to where most modern research points today. The big revelation is this: you don't have to choose. The most effective teaching isn't about accuracy versus meaning. It's about finding a smart way to get accuracy and meaning. Let's explore this smarter, more balanced path.
So, the first huge idea on this balanced path is to teach what is teachable. Thanks to some incredible research by Manfred Pianaman, we now know that everyone learns parts of grammar in a fairly predictable order. Think of it like climbing a ladder. If your student is standing firmly on step 2, you can help them reach for step 3. But you can't just magically teleport them to step 4, no matter how much you drill it. Our job is to figure out which step they're on and help them take that very next one.
This leads us to the question that I know is on all of your minds. So, does this mean I should correct every single mistake? It's the classic teacher dilemma, isn't it? You don't want to crush their spirit, but you do want them to get better. Well, the answer, thankfully, is a clear and simple no. We do not correct everything. We correct strategically. So when do we step in? Here are a few golden rules. You step in when an error actually gets in the way of communication. You definitely give feedback on mistakes related to something you just taught them. And, remembering that latter, you focus on patterns that you know they're developmentally ready to learn. And finally, if you hear a student making the same exact error over and over, that's your signal that a little gentle guidance is needed. So I want you to think of yourselves less like drill sergeants and more like gardeners. Your job is to create this rich, wonderful environment where your students can grow. You provide the meaningful activities. That's the sun and the water. And then, at just the right moments, you gently prune and guide them, helping them learn to not just communicate, but to communicate with more and more accuracy and confidence. Okay, we have been on quite the journey, haven't we? From one extreme to the other, and now to a much more balanced middle ground. So the big question is, what does this actually look like in your lesson plan book on a Tuesday morning? Let's put it all together and build your personal teaching toolkit. If you only remember one single thing from our chat today, please let it be this: balance is key. It's all about balance. Your goal isn't to become a CLIL teacher or a grammar translation teacher. Your goal is to be a smart, flexible, and thoughtful teacher who knows when to create space for fun, joyful communication and when to provide that focused guidance your students need to grow. Let's make this super concrete. What could a balanced week actually look like? Well, maybe on Monday, you're doing a wonderful story time with a picture book. That's your meaning-focused input. On Tuesday, you do a cool hands-on science experiment in English. Boom, that's your CLIL. Then on Wednesday, maybe you play a really fun game that secretly targets a specific grammar point. And on Thursday, you put it all together with a paired dialogue where they have to use that grammar to communicate. You see how it all fits? Every activity has a clear purpose, creating this beautiful blend of meaning and form. So, as you get ready to step into that classroom for the very first time, please let go of the pressure to find one single, perfect method. It doesn't exist. The best teachers, the truly great ones, aren't followers of one system. They are builders. They build a rich, diverse toolkit of strategies, and they know which tool to pull out for which kid on which day. Your journey now is all about building that toolkit. Go out there and be the amazing, thoughtful teachers I know you're all going to be. You've got this.